Welcome to another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide, podcast, live on all your favorite channels. Man, I love this new media landscape. You can go live on demand on whatever channel you want. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Today, I'm joined by the phenomenal, a great friend of mine, awesome leader, one of the best creatives I know in the industry, Ayoola John, also known as AJ, is a Nigerian American entrepreneur, designer, and digital creator. AJ is the founder of Blademy, an online learning community that prepares Black millennials for in demand careers in tech, design, finance, and entrepreneurship. He's also the digital program manager at Chevron, where he leads a team of software engineers, designers, and data scientists on a journey of digital transformation. A trained engineer and entrepreneur, AJ has managed to navigate solving global energy problems, thriving on Wall Street, and building digital technologies at some of the largest global corporations, including Goldman Sachs, ExxonMobil, and BP. As a speaker and moderator, AJ has presented at LinkedIn, the University of Houston, and South by Southwest, one of the largest tech and media conferences in the world. AJ has also been featured by Google, Parameters Magazine, Nord TV, Society and Tech, and many, many more other publications. I'm really excited because today we're really going to dive deep on him, on his story, his background, how he built Blademy, but also his passion as a creative technologist. AJ and I were both tech geeks and also creators at heart. And we're really going to go deep on some of the things he's thinking in the future of design, as well as how we're shifting from user experience to now thinking about human experience. It's going to be a wonderful discussion. And if you are tuning in, please let us know where you're tuning in from. With that said, let me bring on AJ. What's good, man?
Hey everyone. What's up, my brother, man? I'm excited for this just conversation, honestly. I think it's highly anticipated.
Highly anticipated, highly asked for. So how have you been hanging there during COVID, man?
Man, I've been doing good. Like I started off like panicking, to be honest with you. It just started off like the first couple of weeks was just like intense panic. And then I got used to it, and then I, did some more reflection, and right now I think I'm, smooth sailing. It feels good right now. Now I'm just enjoying sort of the transition. You know what's funny? I wanted to bring up something before we started. So last year, you spent the entire year talking about the coming of the future of work, and you were right.
Yeah.
You were 100% right. And it is the craziest thing to me, dog. Like you said, you're like 2020, the future of work's coming, and it did. So I just want to let you know that in case you didn't think about that.
Yeah, dude. Thanks, man. Dude, so I would love for you to share a little bit more about, your background at Ayoola and, how you've been playing in the tech arena for so long as a creative and as a technologist. And, what led you to building Blademy, man?
Yeah, so I'll share. I think my journey with technology actually started. So I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, and growing up in Lagos, Nigeria, like personally, I mean, first of all, it was like a long time ago now. You would say we talk about a decade ago, like it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But things are actually quite different. And being in Nigeria, I actually had less access to the internet. I had less access to computers. I didn't have access to computers growing up. I had access to like I had some rich friends that had cell phones, and these were like the black and white cell phones. And I remember my first time getting on the internet was on like a flip phone. It was like an O2 phone one of my rich friends had. And I remember I just kind of made it up as I went. So he was like, oh, I'm trying to download a game on my phone. I was like, I got you. I'm going to do it for you. I had no idea. Like I'd never used the internet before. And, I flipped this phone and I figured it out. And I've always been fascinated by it. I remember when I got my first mobile phone. I think it was a Sajem phone. And I started getting on the internet on it. The internet was so bad. Like I'd have to go around with the phone and like find like the right service. And when I found I don't know if it actually was real or was a myth, but when I found a spot that had good connection, I would just hold my phone up there while I downloaded like a game to play or things like that. And I ended up building my first website back then. Made a nice little forum, and I think one thing that's really fascinated me about just technology and the internet, it's ability to connect people. And so when I made my first, I guess, online venture was really a forum where we just like got together with a bunch of other geeks and talked about technology, talked about the internet, and I enjoyed it. And ever since, I've just kind of created other things that I found interesting. But the internet has been sort of my vehicle to just share with the world and say, hey, like, check this out. Look at what I created. Like, what do you think about it?
Yeah.
And collaborate with other people as well. So that's been how I've used it. And it hasn't really changed much. I think for me, the internet and technology is still about connecting people and collaborating with people and just getting ideas out. And so I guess it's no surprise that right now I'm working on an education company over the internet because it's still the same mission of like getting ideas out through the internet and collaborating with people and sharing knowledge. And so I found sort of my learning journey to be, interesting. And I really want other people to have similar experiences or better experiences where you're not necessarily going to school to learn. I didn't study computer science in school. I didn't study anything in internet in school. I went to school for petroleum engineering. Yeah, so I went to school for petroleum engineering. I should be drilling oil and gas right now, but I'm not. I'm building technology, and so I think for me, I know it's possible because I've been through it, and so, but I also know it's rewarding because I've been through it and I've seen what it actually takes to learn out of curiosity as opposed to out of necessity, and so that's what I hope that Blademy can provide for other people. It's just that platform where you can go learn things because you actually care about it, and you can learn from people that look like you. And people that have your best interest at heart. So that's really what I hope Blademy can help people accomplish.
I love that. I love that. So shout out to Sage, who is tuning in. He's saying, hey, guys. Shout out to Joanne Meyer. Thank you so much, Joanne, for tuning in.
Shout out to Joanne.
Much love to you, Joanne.
She's
tuning in from Houston as well. So Winifred, hey, Winifred. Hello from Charlotte, North Carolina. What is the topic today? Today we are talking to the Ayoola. And he is the CEO of Blademy, and we're going to be talking a little bit about his background as well as his love for tech, and also kind of what he's been building with Blademy and where he sees the future of design and just technology going. So we're going to be chit-chatting about that, Winifred. Shout out to Ibrahim Salau. Salute. Hello, everyone from Florida. Always exciting to listen to Tim's series. Thank you so much, Ibrahim. I appreciate you, man. It's so funny. We have the same exact last name, Ibrahim. That's so cool. That's so cool. So Ayoola, let me talk to you, man, because you've been active doing so much, and I think what I love about what you're building with Blademy is the fact that it comes from such a honest, transparent, and more importantly, it's something that the world needs right now, right? I want to ask you, you also have Blademy, you also have Astro Media Lab as well, right? Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about Astro Media Lab and what kind of ignited you kind of building this creative digital global agency.
Right. So what's funny? I think I've never really shared this story with people like as honestly as this. But why I started building Astro Media Lab, and if you don't know, Astro Media Lab, it's a at its core, it really has no definition. But if I'm to define it, it's a human experience design lab. What it means is we experiment with human experiences. So how can we design human experiences that cater to like things that we actually care about, things like anxiety and our mental health and our well-being and our happiness and our spirituality. So things that are inherently human. How do we design experiences around that? That's what Astro Media Lab is. And I'm the creative director, I guess, for it. But the reason why I really started building it was, I've always been creative as a person, but I didn't realize that. I didn't give myself permission to create, right? Like growing up, I always saw myself as like, I can't sing, I can't play an instrument, like, I can't do anything creative, I can't draw, and I always sort of told myself that. I reinforced that, to myself, like, oh, you're not creative, just focus on like engineering, focus on, machining. And not until recently that I actually started giving myself, the permission to create. And I realized, oh my God, I'm very creative. In fact, we're all creative. It's just a matter of giving yourself permission to explore. And the creative process is very much like an engineering process. It's like a scientific process because you're really just iterating on ideas and you're trying it out and you're testing ideas and you're solving problems. And when I realized, I was like, whoa, oh my God, like this is important. I need to share this with people. And so with Blademy, one of my goals was to, I really wanted to build a tech company. I wanted to really push out a lot of, my ideas with like my passion for technology and design. And I realized, what? Blademy is not that company. Blademy is a company that's focused on people, on community, and focused on improving experiences. I cannot force technology and design down the throat of people that I really just want to help with just knowledge and information. So I had to, and this is just a personal choice, I had to abstract away, my experiments from Blademy because that's just not fair to students that, that expect me to be focused on their best interest. So I am. And so because Blademy is not sort of traditional, like we're not building like, like crazy technology, right?
Yeah.
Because we're focused on the content, the community, and the people, then Astro Media Lab is sort of my creative outlet where I can experiment on other things I'm passionate about, like specifically, in like cutting edge augmented reality and artificial intelligence technology, but also design and even music production. So that's how I kind of spend my time in. And Astro Media Lab has been so much fun. I mean, I've done collaborations with like really big celebrities and even small creators and everywhere in between. And the way it works is, we just kind of think about ideas like what can we work on? What do we think would be helpful for humans? How do we solve problems? And I collaborate with the best people on the planet, kind of thinking about that. And then we just make something happen.
So who have been some of the few people that you've collaborated with, man? Because you've been doing you've done AR filters with this artist from Africa that's popping right now, right?
Yeah. So I think the number one artist in Africa right now, Davido, we did a collaboration. So we did the official filter for the album, A Good Time album. That was a lot of fun. I also did a collaboration with Corey Bello. So he's signed to Maven Records, very popular artist. And so we did a collaboration, the official filter for his recent single. We're also working on actually a follow-up collaboration right now for his next single. And you know what's interesting? Now that sort of everyone is a quarantine going on, everyone is going indoors, like a lot of artists actually started to reach out to me saying like, how can we create digital music experiences? Like how can you create digital music videos? Because they can't be out and about right now shooting videos on the streets or whatever because there's a quarantine. And so like people are actually more interested in digital music videos. Like Migos recently launched partner with a really, really good cat, Idris Sandu, and they put out this music video for tacos, and that was Taco Tuesday, and that was like really cool. It's like there's actually shifts. There's a shift now. People start to realize, oh my God, like digital experiences are delightful. People enjoy digital experiences. Like maybe I don't even need to spend $1 million on a music
video. That's crazy.
Throwing cash and showing explicit content. Maybe I can actually create more immersive digital experiences for my fans. And I think that's only going to grow. And for me, I've seen a lot of demand. I think for me, with Astro Media Lab, I actually decline more collaborations than I accept. So it's that most times I'm saying no. It's just because I want to focus on the most interesting things and the most rewarding things. And once in a while, I'll do partnerships, I'll do collaborations with people that, maybe they wouldn't have access to technology any other way, maybe they wouldn't have access to good design any other way. And I'll just collaborate with them and let's make something happen. But I've done everything from when I say it's really been me and just different people have collaborated. Making sure. So we've done things from product design to augmented reality filters to AI applications to we've also done just simple logos and simple UI design. So it's sort of all around the spectrum. Right now, a few projects we have in the works are something around sort of meditation and spirituality. We also have something else around just how do you help other people be creative? How do you help other people create music? How do you help how can my mom create beats? How can my mom create hits, good music, and using technology, because that's possible. So working on things like that, it's really just how can we enhance the human experience using technology in an honest way, not I want to raise some money and look cool way, but in an honest way, it's an experiment, it's a laboratory. I favorite science over engineering. It's funny.
No, you're a creative scientist. So shout out to Kimberly, who is saying there's so much innovation in Africa right now happening in Africa. True that, Kimberly. Kimberly is also saying there's no standardized definition on creativity. Agree with you 110%, Mrs. Friedman. How do you feel about that, Ayoola? There is no standardized definition on creativity.
I agree. My perspective on design is so different, right? Everything is design, literally everything. And you're a designer at heart. So I know you get this, but most people still don't understand. It's every single thing, I'm drinking out of a bottle. This bottle was designed, opening the cab and drinking it. It's such a seamless experience, but you don't think about sort of how this was designed and why it fits in my hand, right? And so from that to like, designing physical products, right? That's design, but experience is also designed. Like you go to Disney World, like you feel a certain way. Even when artists produce music, they evoke certain emotions. The chords they use evoke emotions, and that in itself is design, right? Like artists spend so much time and effort trying to make sure when you listen to an album, just the transitions between each song, and you take it for granted. You just listen to songs randomly.
You
but
do.
artists, but it spends so much effort to make sure like one song ends, the other song transitions in a seamless way, and that is design. So even the things that you just take for granted, you just look over. No, all these things are designed, and there's always an opportunity to improve designs, right? There's an opportunity throughout your day, like you're writing on a whiteboard, and you realize, okay, I'm not enjoying this experience. Well, there's a way to improve that design, and it's really problem solving approach, right? You don't just, I don't think. So there's a story. I'll tell you the story. There's a story I heard, and it really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And I think it was this. So imagine I guess a big like college building. So there's this college. They had this really big building. Think about it like a library, right? And there's a lawn around it, right? And you weren't here, you know this story, but there's a lawn around it, and you're trying to figure out the best. Like you're trying to build a path, like a walking path, right? You're trying to build a path for people to walk to get access to the building. And so they hired all these like designers and all these architects or whatever. And you're all debating, okay, let's make it a straight path, let's make it a curvy path, let's make it, let's design what the sidewalk should look like. And the designer that actually got the gig, he was like, nah, don't design nothing. Just put the grass on there. Just put grass. He said, don't build a sidewalk, don't build any path, just put grass. And after a year of just grass, the sidewalk that people wanted started to emerge, because people started to walk on the grass in different ways, right? And so they started to leave like pathways. Like when you walk on the grass over time, the grass starts to die, and so you start to the actual path starts to emerge. This is how people actually walk to get access to the library. And then let's build a sidewalk. Let's put concrete on that path that was already created by people. That is design. It's not trying to impose, oh, this is how things should happen. It's not like, how do things happen, and how can I best support them? How can I best support human beings and their original experiences? Because do you have any sidewalks people have designed where people don't even walk on it? People just walk across the ground. It's because it wasn't designed. It was just put there, right? So that for me, that's important, right? And always thinking about people first. Always thinking about how can you empower people with your design and not just not constrain them. Those are the kind of things I think about.
I love it. So shout out to Moni Fliki, who is saying, I agree with you. Everything starts from design. It stems from design. Stephanie is just joining us. Shout out to Miss Stephanie Liu. Lights, camera, live. Lights, camera, live. Stephanie Liu is pretty amazing. She loves stories as well. I was about to say lights, camera, action. I'm like, no, that's not Stephanie. That's not her.
Live.
So shout out to Joanne Meyer, who's saying best design that meets customer needs. So the best design always finds a way to meet customer needs. I agree with you 100%, Joanne, and I'm sure Ayoola believes the same. So Kimberly is chatting with Winifred in the chat, and she is saying, you are right. Engineering can be used in unexpected ways, right? And I think what's so interesting about you, Ayoola, is you're a creative engineer, right? It's not just you like creating, you like design, or you like technology. You kind of see it from a holistic sense. And what I love about what you're doing with Astro Media Lab is that you're actually pushing the boundaries on where design is going, right? Right now, for a long time, we as designers, we understand what user experience is, but now we're moving towards a more augmented generation. So I would love for you to share a little bit more about, this idea around human experience, right? What are you kind of looking at in that area that has really sparked your interest and, you're channeling through Astro Media Lab?
Right. So I've been very big on philosophy recently. So I've been very in tune with just like understanding great thinkers of the past and understanding the things they think about. So think like Aristotle, Plato, and going into more recent thinkers like Ren or Descartes or St. Augustine, right? These people have thought about a lot of things when it comes to humanity. And I've been thinking a lot about the things they've thought about. And I've also been thinking a lot about just like my own thoughts. And what the conclusion I've come to is like, one, this shouldn't be new information to everybody, but history does repeat itself. That's like because you go into history and like the same thing happens over and over again. Another thing that you look at is that there is nothing new under the sun. So like a lot of things we look at today and we're like, oh, this is original. No, they're not original. They've all happened before, right? And you can sort of go back into the past and go back into these thought processes and see things that have happened before. You can literally study history and see things that caused human sort of decline and decline in just human prosperity. And you can see things that caused things that sparked human prosperity, right? And you can go back and like, okay, you can actually reverse engineer a lot of these things. Like, okay, what made it possible that the Renaissance was so good, or the Renaissance was so interesting, and why was the Dark Ages so dark? Like, what about it, right? You can go all the way back to the Greek societies and things like that, and my thing is, because I understand a lot of these things, and in my daily experience, just like with human beings, like I talk to a lot of people. I like to engage with people, and I'm learning more about people. I'm learning about what motivates them, like why people do what they do. I read a lot of books about people, and I'm realizing like, oh my God, like a lot of people don't understand themselves. First of all, like just generally, like people don't understand themselves, let alone understand other people. And for me, I don't even feel like I understand myself fully yet, just because the more I learn, the more I realize, oh my God, I'm so clueless. And so because of that, I feel like now more than ever, it's important that we start to learn about ourselves. Like before we even like try to go, like, we're spending time, and don't get me wrong, I love space, but we're spending time trying to go to space and trying to do all these things, but we haven't even gone into ourselves. We haven't even learned about ourselves, right? Like, and you're right here, like this is just, you don't have to travel to do that, right? Just to go into yourself. And so for me, I am trying to push that as like an ethos. First of all, it's just like, hey, like go back into yourself and reveal things about yourself. And I'm trying to understand you, but I'm also trying to help you understand you better. Like as a first step, just let's learn more about ourselves. And I feel like once we can learn more about ourselves, then we can start learning more about our immediate surroundings, and we can start learning about our communities. And until you learn about yourself and then learn about communities, you can't really help your communities because you don't know them. And then let's start learning about our world, and then maybe let's start learning about space. So it's really I guess a journey to enlightenment with design. I'm not trying to get like super deep on this or whatever, but I really think that as a society, or as humans, like we have our brain. Our brain is pretty good, but it doesn't give us all the answers. And so it's really important to spend the time thinking and spend the time designing experiences and experimenting with just human experiences. Like we have things today, for example, like we have things like social media, where social media was designed to improve the human experience, to improve human conditions, right? But we have the highest rates of mental illness than we've ever had in forever. Like we've never had this high rates of mental illness and anxiety. And that's scary, because it's like, these things were supposedly designed to help us and to make us feel better. But it's not making us feel better. It's making us feel worse about ourselves. And so a lot of things we accept to be truths, a lot of things that are popular are not true. They're not always right. They're not always the right thing. And so it's really important as thinkers and as designers to challenge the things that we trust so much, right? If I had $1 for every time a new designer was designing something and you're like, yeah, this should work because Amazon does it, or this should work because Google does it, right? It's like, you cannot do that, because just because they've done this and they're doing it at a scale and it's working doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's true. It's your responsibility to learn more about yourself, learn more about other people, learn more about history, and try to figure out things that are indeed true, because by definition true is like by definition, right? Multiple things cannot be true. Like, what I'm saying? If you're talking about truth, right? There's the truth, right? And everything else is false, right? And so it's important that you kind of go on that journey of the truth, like not what's popular, not what's common, but what is true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's essential too, right? What's true and essential.
Yes, exactly. And I think design helps you to go on that journey, because you can try out different things and you can see how you respond. Like, for example, Astro Media Lab, we launched a filter. It was really an experiment, right? We launched this Light Show Plus filter, and the filter reached, I think, over 500,000 people were using the filter within 2 weeks. Right. Wow. And people look at that and you're like, wow, like first of all, people don't understand that. People don't understand the scale, what that means, where you launch a digital product and over 500,000 people are using it within 2 weeks, literally taking selfies with this digital product and posting on Instagram. Like, people don't understand that scale, but it's a lot. That's a lot of human beings. 500,000 human beings in 2 weeks is a lot. And the reason why I stress that is this. that just didn't happen. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't just like, oh, I just randomly launched this filter and then randomly everybody's using it. No, it was designed. Like, I have a whiteboard behind me. I study, behavioral psychology. I study what motivates people. I study, like, there's a science to this. There's a science to how human beings work. I study these things and I test it, right? A lot of times I fail, but sometimes it works. And it's not just randomly. It's because I'm studying things. I'm putting out products. I'm studying it. I'm putting out more products. And I'm learning more about people. Like, okay, this motivates people. This doesn't motivate people. This helps people. This doesn't help people. And it's so important that it's an experiment, because you should be willing to take it back if it sucks. If it's not improving the human condition, you should be willing to take it back. It doesn't have to be permanent, right? And so for me, it's really taking that approach of like, okay, what's true, and how do I figure out what's true? By testing, testing design experiences. Oh, would this help improve your anxiety? No, all right. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's review. Okay, does this help you improve your human experience? Yeah. Okay, let's stick with it, right? Like, I think what's behind me right now, if you look at my board, it's actually a workouts. I'm building a habit of working out every day for the next 3 years, right? And that's a science too, because this is a design for one. This is designed for myself. I'm not designing that for anybody. That's not an app. That's a design for myself, right? So you have to live this, right? Like, constantly experimenting. I'll tell you what, if this wasn't working, I would have erased it and tried something else, right? Like, because I'm building a one-man product right now. Yeah, it's working. It's working. Literally, I cannot go to bed without looking at that board and crossing out an X. Like, that's my reward for this. It's like every time I work out, I get to cross out an X. And I literally cannot go to bed if I see an X missing there. And you know what's interesting? The more X's I cross out, the more unwilling I am to go a day without working out, because then I lose my streak. I lose my X's, right? That's not very different from Snapchat building a streak feature into their app. Like, oh, if you talk with your friend every day, you get like a bunch of streaks, right? Similar motivation sort of system, but this is designed for one, and I'm testing and experimenting on myself. So that's kind of how I approach it. It's really an experiment, and things that work stick, and things that don't work go out the door.
I think so. Shout out to my homeboy Mike Gates, one of the world's greatest educators. He's saying space exploration is a misuse of funds at this point. When we have failing schools and a growing homeless population, it is so hard to justify space travel. Laugh out loud, unless Elon Musk is paying for it himself. Hilarious. So Mike is also saying gold, Ayoola, gold, sociology and psych are the best pairings for tech and innovation. Shout out to Mike for sharing those gems. He's also saying we must be experts on people to build anything. Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely true. What are your thoughts on that, Ayoola?
I agree. I've never seen anything that was created not for people. You know what I mean? Like, you look at things that were created, like bridges, so people can walk on them, computers, so people can like do business on them or talk on them, microphones, like water, so people could drink from them. Like, I just can't think of anything that was like created, anything useful that's been created that's not being for people. And so when you start to realize that, like, oh my God, like every time I have this idea, every time I create something, it's usually for people, to use it. Even if you're making pet food, you're just making it so people don't have to cook for their pets, right? Like, what I mean? Like, a lot of things we're designing for people. So how can you design for people when you haven't taken the time to understand people? I've personally, on my just personal journey, I'm not like recommending, I don't think it's like the thing to do, but I've actually been going back on a journey of like I really don't think I learned the things I should have learned in school. So I'm actually going back on a self-education journey, and I'm learning, I'm relearning mathematics. I'm relearning, I actually never learned philosophy. I'm learning philosophy like through a curriculum. I'm learning these things that I took for granted. I'm learning history by myself, things I took for granted that I didn't really sort of think mattered. And now I'm realizing, oh my God, these things matter more than most things that I actually learned. Tech buff. These things actually matter. And so I'm going back and learning these things. And because I think that I strongly believe that, like, we design things for people. So let's get to know people first so we can design the right things for them.
I think what to Bob, my brother and co-founder, is saying working out equals tech buff. So he's feeling you on this workout trend, making sure you're keeping your mind, your body, and more importantly your craft in line. And he's also sharing great insights. And Kimberly is actually saying, Ayoola, thanks for sharing your creativity and knowledge it is inspiring. So appreciate you, man, for finding
Thanks,
time
Kimberly.
to be on the show, sharing all of these gems. You know, I want to
Thanks for
dive
having me.
even a little bit deeper with you, man, because you're speaking to a lot of people right now who are inspired by what you're saying. And I think, you know, everything you're talking about, you know, being on your own journey to self-education, being okay to experiment and creative, it's truly, I think, a very interesting way to see education, but also it's a very interesting way to see your craft. And, you know, one of the things I often share about on LinkedIn is, you know, you being passionate about what you do, you know, finding the fulfillment and joy in it. You know, I want you to talk a little bit about, you know, as a design technologist and a creative technologist, you know, who has been your biggest inspiration in your journey, man, you know, as
Oh,
you're growing
man.
and developing?
Yeah, so I feel like I take it. That's a great question. I feel like I take inspiration at different phases
Yeah.
of my learning journey, right? Because the truth is, like, people are. I don't want to use the word experts because you know, I don't think they're real experts, right? Because
Yeah.
we all have something to learn, right? But you know, for lack of better words, like, there's people that are good at different things, right? And so for me, in my journey to learn different things, right, I find certain people just inspiring. And I think one thing I wanted to point out here is, like,
Mm.
a lot of times I take inspiration from, you know, people that are living here and now. A lot of times I take inspiration from people that lived many years ago, thousands of years ago, right? Because a lot of times
Mm.
their ideas live on. And so I learn from their ideas. I'm like, oh my God, like, this is amazing. Um, you know, like, one recent person that I've been sort of learning from is Plato, right? Like, this man had this, you know, he came up with this concept, the allegory of the cave. And the idea was this: like, imagine if you were born and you were basically like, you were chained to, you were facing the wall. So you were in a cave, you were born, you're in a cave. Let's say you're kneeling down, your hands behind your back, tied up behind your back, and your body's chained to where you can't even turn left or turn right, and you're just like facing the cave wall, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a fire lit behind you. So there's a fire burning behind you. So there's the fire, there's you, and there's a cave wall. You're facing the cave wall, right? If you know, you understand, like, if there's a fire behind you, it's probably casting a shadow on the wall. So there you go, tied down, kneeling down in front of the cave wall and just looking at the cave wall, and all you see is your shadow, right? And there's, let's say, three other people next to you, and you all just see the shadows, right? And once in a
Mm.
while, these people that walk behind you, right? These people that walk behind you, and so their shadows get cast on the wall too. So your entire life, all you've ever known from when you were born to when you were like 50 is just, you know, tied behind your hands and looking at this cave wall, and all you've ever known life to be was the shadows on the wall. That's all you've ever known
Yeah.
life to be, right? And then all of a sudden, one day, somebody unchains you and takes you outside. Like, do you know, like, you just be like, whoa, like, what? Like, this doesn't even make
Yeah.
any sense, right? And so the concept there is, like, you know, as human beings, we're basically like those people tied down and looking at the cave wall and just experiencing shadows, right? Like, we don't even know it. Like, all we know life to be today is just the shadows on the wall. Like, we actually don't have a full perspective of the universe. We don't have a full perspective of anything.
Wow.
It's important because it really humbles you. You realize, oh my God, like, everything I think I know, like, I have a PhD and whatever, right? Like, yeah, you're smart, you know, based on material science, but just in general, like, there's things that we don't know. And the sooner you acknowledge that you don't know most things, the easier it is to sort of humble yourself enough to learn new things. And, you know, people talk about buying a bunch of books, and, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's easy to look at people that buy a bunch of books and be like, you know, you're just buying a bunch of books, you're wasting money or whatever. You're trying to look
Yeah.
cool. But I see value in it, right? Because, like, if you're buying
Yeah.
a bunch of books, I feel like that's just proof that you're ignorant because you don't know enough, right? Because there are all these
Mm.
books that you've not read. And so I feel like it's living proof that there's things to be learned, right? Even if you never get to
Mm.
them, just by seeing them, you know that I haven't read that book. So there's knowledge I don't have. And that's important
Mm.
because you have to sort of understand it. So that's, you know, that's like somebody that's been inspiring me, like that. That's an idea that's been inspiring me recently. You know, I've been inspired recently by people like Saint Augustine, you know, because of their journeys in life. And
Mm.
for more modern people, like, I've been inspired by designers like Virgil Abloh, right? Just the ability
Mm.
to transcend different design mediums has been very inspiring for me. Like, Virgil has worked on furniture to music to fashion, right? And
Yeah.
it's the same design ethos. And, like, for me, that's been actually very inspiring because I've realized, oh my God, like, I don't have to just design logos. Like, I can design logos. I can design music. I can design, you know,
Buildings.
I can design buildings. Exactly.
Yeah.
I can design anything. Like, it's the same design process, the same experimental, iterative process. You can design anything. And for me, that's been like the biggest thing that's just like opened my mind. And Virgil Abloh did that for me. So I take inspiration from just different people at different times, and you know, I try to study those people, study how they came to the decisions they came to, and I try to sort to learn from that. You know, another thing I learned from Virgil Abloh is the ability to you know, work on his creative ventures. So he has Off-White, which is like a well-known like street brand, streetwear brand, right? Very popular, very highly anticipated. But at the same time, you know, working as a creative director for Louis Vuitton, like arguably the largest fashion house on the planet, right? So being able to work in both spaces at the same time, that's a new concept. That's not, to me, that's not something that we've always sort of done, you know, in the past. And that's a new concept. So you're working as a creative director of a fashion house, but at the same time, you're running your fashion brand. At the same time, you're doing collaborations with IKEA and all these different, you know, these different brands. I feel like that's important. And if you realize, that's how I've modeled my life based on that today, right? Like I'm working at Chevron. At the same time, I'm running an education company. At the same time, I'm also a creative director for a human experience design lab that I founded, right? So the ability to really just transcend those constraints and work in different spaces, I've learned that from him, and I've modeled my life off of that. So those are things that I learned, and I try not to just have a bunch of different people I'm studying. I study very specific people, and I take what's worked for them and I sort of adopt it and then test it. If it works, it sticks. If it doesn't work, it's out the door. And I'm finding something else. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very future of work-esque, right? Being able to, you know, abstract from different domains, but also kind of say you have multiple things that you're doing to have a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I think, you know, do you think that this is going to be a common pattern that we see the next generation of talent doing, kind of like, you know, because it's possible now, right? Remote work is allowing you to abstract out your talent, your expertise. You don't necessarily have to, you know, go work on site for someone, you know, and completely only settle for that anymore.
Right. I think it's an inevitable future. You know, looking at the tech companies we admire today, right? Like Twitter says, everybody can work from home indefinitely. Like Facebook recently announced, like, you know, 50% of our workforce are going to be working, you know, remotely over the next 10 years, right? And so there's going to be this like redistribution of talent. Like people are going to be working wherever they choose to work. And because of that, they're also gonna have more autonomy over their work. They're gonna have more control over their time. They can literally like work from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then go play golf from 9 to 12 and then come back. Like people are gonna have a lot more autonomy. People can do more things. And I think that people are finally gonna give themselves permission to try out different things they've always been passionate about, different things they care about. And what you're going to see more people just willing to do more things, like more than one thing at the same time. And it's not that scary. It's not that hard. Like, I feel like a lot of people do it already, but maybe they don't give themselves enough permission to just do multiple things, because you're a multi-dimensional being. Like, you're not just like, you're completely, you have complete permission to do different things, right? Like, you're a human being, like you should be exploring different things and be learning more about, you know, your planet and your world and your existence, right? To me, that's important. So.
Yeah, we're dynamic beings, and it's something that I often, you know, it's okay to be a multi-potentialite, right? It's okay to have a variety of different areas that you're passionate about. It's all a matter of how do you fuse them together and, you know, find a sense of fulfillment, you know. And so I want to talk to you a little bit more about, you know, for you, you know, you're doing a variety of different things. You know, why do you think it's so important for us to do the things that are essential, right?
Oh man, that's a good question. So I don't think I have to stress this one enough, but just like look at what happened when, you know, the pandemic came, right? Like we live in a free enterprise, right? We live in America, the city. It's a free country. It's a free enterprise. Like, we have a capitalist society, right? Now, a pandemic comes and there's an order to shut down your business. Like, that is crazy to me. In a capitalist society, in a capitalist free enterprise society, there is an order to shut down your business. Now, I'm not saying that order was wrong. I think it was, you know, the best course of action to ensure our safety. But what is true is that there are people that were deemed essential and there were people that were deemed unessential, right? So, like, I don't have to stress this enough, but in the time of pandemic, do you want to be the person where there's an order to shut down your business because you're unessential, or the person who is considered essential that can continue to provide your service to society? And I think that's important to now understand, right? Something we never really thought about, right? Like, like how
Because what we're
important.
realizing is the internet is essential.
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly,
technology is
exactly.
essential, right?
It's essential, and we're realizing, oh wow, so this is actually essential, and this is not, right? Like
Yeah.
me, running this club is not essential, right? Like my restaurant is not even though I'm providing food, it's really not that essential. What's essential is delivering food to people, right? Like being able to get food.
Mm.
The supply chain is essential, but my
Yeah.
big dining room is not that essential, right? My
Wow.
movie theater is not that essential, right? Netflix is a bit more essential. Like I think for me, I'm not even prescribing anything. I'm just saying, hey, look around you, everyone that's watching this, look around you. Try to do not miss this opportunity to categorize what's essential and what's not essential. This is not the first pandemic that's happened, right? This is
Yeah.
not the wildest pandemic that's happened to humanity. In the Dark Ages, there was the Black Death. So the bubonic plague and the pneumonic plague killed between when the numbers they estimated between 30 to 60% of the entire population in Europe, they died. They just found boils under their armpit or in your groin. And once you found a boil, within a week you were dead. You had this black and purple spots and you were dead. And literally between 30 to 60, just imagine that 1 in 2 people died. Like about 400 million people died from this pandemic, right? And so just think about what that means. Like think about what they must have gone through in that time, what they must have deemed essential. And that time also sparked the Renaissance, right? Because it didn't just happen. The Black Death didn't just happen, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah, back to normal. No, it wasn't back to normal, right? Like the landscape changed. Like what happened? Peasants that used to work the fields in agriculture. Peasants were they were called peasants. They were basically nobodies, right? When the Black Death happened in the Dark Ages, and people start to die. Literally, people were dying in the millions and getting buried. Right. What became essential was agriculture, because people still needed to eat. Right. And because agriculture became important and the peasants were dying off, the peasants became essential. So the peasants started to get paid more because field owners needed more peasants to work their fields. Right. You see what I'm saying? So the people we consider to be useless, like the peasants that work the field, in the time of the Dark Ages and the Black Death, the peasants became the most important people on the planet, right? So it's important to understand, like essentiality or importance is relative. It depends on the context, right? And so obviously that sparked a revolution, and sparked Renaissance. And it's important to, that's why I say history is so important, because you got to look back. This has happened before. It's been worse than this before, right? But look at what came out of that, right? And then come back to today and think, okay, this is happening again. Like it's not new. It's happening again, right? Think about what the dynamic of importance is shifting. How Zoom is becoming more important than
Facebook almost.
Yeah, Facebook, right? Like how body is becoming more important than Ford, right? It's like nobody's going anywhere, right? So the airlines are becoming less important than Zoom. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so think about how the dynamics are changing. And think about what kind of renaissance this is sparking, and what's going to look different, right? How is travel going to be different after this? How is education going to be different after this? Like how are things going to be different? Because I think the truth is things are not going to stay the same. You know what I mean? Like, don't fool yourself. Go look in history, right? And so it's important now for you to, this is your learning experience, your opportunity to look at what's essential, what's not essential, and how do you position yourself in the future to working on things that are essential to human progress, and things that are essential to our civilization. And I think that's just good advice. Like just work on essential things, because when things get tough, the non-essentials get cut off. And you don't, just from a practical perspective also, I mean, if your business gets shut down because of something happening, like this is not going to be the last pandemic. It wasn't the first, it's not going to be the last. There's going to be more. There's going to be other things we haven't thought about. They call them black swans, things that you don't even expect. And they happen. And so you need to sort of prepare yourself for those things, but take times like this, even if you don't go back to history to study, which is probably the easier approach, is go study what happened because it's happened before. But even if you want to spend your time in the present, go ahead, study what's happening right now and think about it, and think about what to anticipate for the future and position yourself to be in that future. For me, so far it's looking like, okay, I made a right bet, right? Like Blademy, we didn't even feel like Blademy didn't even feel a pandemic, right? Like we've only had more students sign up to take courses, and we're still we've always been a distributed company. We've always been, we've always been an online company. So that, I didn't see anything there. However, there's so many companies out there laying off people in the thousands, right? Because companies are laying off 1 in 4 of their workforce, 1 in 2 of their workforce, right? Just absolutely crazy. and they're realizing they need to go back to what's essential. So
Yeah.
just take some advice from your playbooks and try you go back to what's essential for yourself as well.
That's powerful. That's powerful. I think it's a profound shift, right? And I love your analogy in terms of looking back to understand where you need to move forward to and what's essential. Because you're absolutely right. We have completely rethought, as a society, what we find essential. We're finding that family is essential, health and wellness is essential, right? It's not the food and the atmosphere that's essential. It's the delivery of the food. And it's I think that's a powerful mental model shift. So I want to show love to Tracy, who is saying spot on. I discussed that on my podcast last week about digging into our roles and seeing how we provide value in the supply chain of any business. Thank you so much, Tracy, for your amazing insights. Shout out to Salam, who is saying sound history lesson, AJ, hand clap, hand clap, hand clap. Much love to Joseph, who's joining us and saying, hey, what's good, AJ? And he's loving what you're saying as well. Mo is saying relearning, kind of touching on what you were talking about earlier about your self-education. So she is feeling that as well. Joanne, Mrs. Myers is saying, what tech do you use to understand people better, man?
This is good. So I think I'll start from just like what our society does today, like what Facebook does to understand you better, what Google does to understand you better. And that's just, they collect a lot of your data and they study it, right? That's like quantitative understanding of people. So it's just like, taking surveys of people, tracking what they're doing, and using that to understand them better. I think that gives you a perspective. I don't think it actually tells you, isn't tell you enough about people. And these companies know that, right? So there are other things I use, and I like the qualitative understanding of people, just like understanding people. And I think simple mechanism. I'm going to share just simple mechanisms, simple things, just have conversations. Joanne, I know you do this very well. You're really actually quite awesome at it, but just have conversations with people, have conversations with strangers. Like, how many times have you gone to, I don't know, have you been at like a train station, depending on what city you're in? How many times have you just like start a conversation with a stranger? Like, we don't even do that anymore. Like, we don't do that. We just like, you'll be in the elevator and you just like, everybody's just staring at the buttons. It's like, boom. And then we were like, oh, have a good day. Like, why you say have a good day? We didn't have a conversation. We didn't even talk about anything. Like, we're just programmed, So, but how many, like, when's the last time you actually just have a conversation with a stranger and don't just have surface conversations. Don't just like, if you don't want to talk, just don't talk. Don't even bother. Like, there's no point. But if you feel like, you can, and I understand, like, you could be an introvert, things like that, which I totally understand. But maybe you don't have 10 conversations. Maybe you have one conversation a year, but just have a conversation and make it meaningful. Like make it meaningful. Learn about the person. Ask them questions. People love to share. People love to, ask them questions that maybe you're thinking about. Like ask them crazy questions. Like, what do you think about time? Like when you talk about when you say yesterday, like, what do you mean, right? Like look at how people respond to questions like that. And people always have a response. Let me tell you that. So look at how they respond and have these conversations. A great philosopher, Socrates. That's what he did his entire life. He literally just went around the community. This guy didn't have a job. He didn't have anything. He just went around door to door and just asking the questions. And you've probably heard about the Socratic method today, right? Like that's by Socrates, right? So he just went around asking people questions, learning about them. And he's one of the, like, he knows more about people than I know, than I might ever know, right? But he literally, like, and the way he found he's like, the way he ate was just like, whenever he would go, like, he was like, whenever he would go door to door and just like talk to people, he would basically ask them for food, right? So it's kind of annoying. but so it was a little excessive, but yeah, he got fed by just having conversations with people, and he got to know more about people than I ever would. So I feel like that's probably the easiest mechanism, just have more conversations, especially with strangers. And
start a podcast.
Yeah. So podcast. So I don't have a podcast, but I think a podcast is the biggest hack to having conversations, right? Because think about it. You're having a real authentic conversation, but at the same time, you're also creating knowledge and information for other people. It's just amazing. It's like the perfect, and you're killing it. You're killing the game. Like, this is right? So I think that just have conversations and you get to know more about people. And that's not even tech, it's not really even tech. It's just like, it's genuinely having conversations. And I feel like maybe tech can help you have more conversations, right? Like, you can go on live and go on IG Live and talk to people. Maybe tech could increase, but I would argue, apps like House Party are doing a better job of that than most other apps, right? Because
Yeah.
they encourage you to have real conversations, not just like I'm an influencer and I'm influencing you. Like, what are you influencing? But yeah.
Do you feel as if we're moving towards a more introverted world post COVID-19?
Let me think about that one. I don't know. I've never, to be honest with you, I've never really understood like introvert, I guess introverts versus extroverts. Like for example, for me, right? I like to think I'm an extrovert, but I don't completely believe it either because the thing is, I love talking to people. I love being like in the scene. I love doing what's popular. I love being, I love whatever. I just love being outside with people and
Yeah.
stuff, right? But I also get drained, right? Like
Yeah.
whenever I go give like a speech and there's like, hundreds of people in the crowd, whatever, and I give a speech and stuff, like I get drained, like I'm tired, it's not a bad thing. Like I enjoy
Yeah.
the experience, but like the definition of extroverts is you're supposed to be energized by that experience. But I'm just tired. Like I just like I just want to lay down and just like turn off my phone. And it'd be some weeks where like I don't want to talk to anybody, right? So I feel like um I feel like it's not even black and white. At least for me, it's not being like, oh, I'm just like super extroverted. But at the same time, I don't think I'm an introvert. So I think there's probably a medium there where I feel like more people are probably going to fall within that spectrum of just being an introvert versus an extrovert. But I do think there's a tendency for us to want to be more. I haven't really thought a lot about this actually. I don't know fully. I haven't thought fully about this, but I think there's things to consider, right? Like we live in an individualist like society where people are like individuals, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like this experience is causing us to realize like, oh my God, family is important, and we're learning more about like the importance of community and communal experiences even in your home. And so we're spending more time with our family. So like I wonder if like after this we start to take that more seriously, like taking our family more seriously, like the things we actually realize were essential to us. I wonder if we're going to start to weigh that highly than we've weighed it before. But I don't know the answer to that. Actually, I don't know what the trend will be. But I think those are things to think about, like and study going forward. So, okay, how do people, how valuable do people consider family after this experience? And what lengths do people go through to maintain communication? Like are you having Zoom? Like for me, I have daily calls with my friends, right? Like we get on House Party every day. I don't work out alone. I work out with a group of 7 people every day at 6 p.m. Central Time. We're on House Party and we're doing a group workout, right? Like
Wow.
on the floor right there. I have a yoga mat, put it there, and we're working out together, right? And like that's something I've never done before, right? There's friends I now talk to every day. I've not talked to them before the pandemic. I haven't talked to them in years, and so I'm experiencing changes in my life. I know other people are too, but I wonder what's going to stick and what's not. And I don't know. We'll see. I guess 2022.
Yeah, that's powerful. So the last word today is going to go to Hope Atina. Thank you so much, Hope, for joining us on today's live episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide podcast. He says, I'm sorry. I think events will be more intentional and intense, but probably lower frequency initially. Great insights, Hope. Thank you for joining us. Ayoola, thank you so much, man, for joining us on another live online episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, man. What is your takeaway for our amazing community? How can they ensure that they're doing essential work moving towards the future, man?
Start by looking inside yourself. I'll be honest with you. Like study yourself. Like listen to yourself. We go through our days just kind of, just going through the days, reacting to impulses, and it's okay. I totally understand we're animals. Like we're higher animals, but we are animals, right? So you just kind of go around acting to instincts. You see a notification there, you're clicking it. Somebody says, "Hey, come do this." You're doing it. You're just kind of jumping at everything. And you're not really taking the time to listen to yourself. Like, what do you actually like doing? What do you not like doing? What's interesting to you? What's not interesting to you? So start listening to yourself. Start giving yourself the opportunity to talk to yourself, right? Because there are always things in your brain. You're always your mind is always trying to talk to you, but you're not really listening. So give yourself the opportunity. Listen to yourself more. Think about your day throughout. Like, what times in your day are you having just an amazing experience? Like, oh my God, like this is like wonderful. And what times in your day are you just like not happy? Listen to those times. Don't just play it off. Don't just pick up your phone and try to like watch TikToks and laugh it off. Like actually listen to yourself and say like, why am I not happy right now? Like what exactly, how can I enhance this experience? How can I make this experience enjoyable for myself? How can I make it so that my entire day is just a ball of like happiness and delightment, and delight. And if there are times in your day where you're not enjoying your experience, then think about, how can I improve this part of my life? How can I make this experience better? Right? Like, not to make, but I want to put an imagery in your head that's going to stick. Right? Imagine you go to the toilet and you're not having a good time on the toilet. Like, you know what I mean? Like that, like how unfortunate, right? Like, because you spend so much of our time on the toilet. Like, think about, how can you improve your toilet experience? Like, how can like you go to bed and your bed is not comfortable. Like, listen to yourself. Like, how can you improve your sleeping experience? Just start with yourself and start looking at, like, how can I make my experience better? And the more you take note of that, the easier it'll get for you to learn how to create things for other people, because you've learned to listen to yourself and create things for yourself. So that would be my biggest takeaway. It's not a hard task. Just focus on yourself. It's a good start.
Give yourself grace and listen to yourself. Powerful, man. Powerful.
Absolutely.
With that said, thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Salam. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, everyone. Dude, I thought somebody was right beside me.
I was like,
thank you, Kimberly. And thank you, Mike, for tuning in to this episode of Unleashing the Future of Work with the fantastic Ayoola. Ayoola, where can the people follow you, man, and follow your movement, brother?
Yes, absolutely. So the best place to get in contact with me, just go to my website at ayoolajohn.com. So that's AYOOLAJOHN.com. If you go to ayoolajohn.com, you see all my social media. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Medium. I also write, so you can read some of my stuff. But just ayoolajohn.com is the best way.
Sweet, man. Ayoola, thank you so much for showing up today, brother. Be well, man.
Brother, yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a Guy podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to check us out on UTFOWlive.com, UTFOWlive.com. If you're interested in being a guest, please check out UTFOWlive.com, as well as sign up for information and news about Unleashing the Future of Work, and sign up to be one of the early testers for Guide. GuideApp.co is where we're taking early app registrations. So definitely check out guideapp.co if you're interested in being one of our creators and a part of our amazing creator community. Once again, if you're interested in being a future guest or sponsoring Unleashing the Future of Work, check out UTFOW.com. If you want to have early access to Guide, check out guideapp.co. With that said, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Peace, love, and I will talk to you all soon.